All right, pop quiz. You got 3 games left. You're 2-7. Barring some twist of fate that's not altogether impossible. There's a non-zero chance of it happening, but it's highly unlikely. You're not going to a bowl game. There's nothing left to do, right? Nothing left to accomplish in this woeful 2023 football season, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe there's a few things that can get done. Maybe a few things you can accomplish as you go through these final 3 games. If you're the Pitt football program, I'm using the second person, not to refer to you, the loyal Panther-Lair Morning Pitt listener, but rather the Pitt football program. Maybe there are some things you can accomplish. We'll list a few of them for you today on the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Welcome to Thursday. The week's flying by, and this is the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I can't believe it's Thursday already. It does feel like it's going fast. My voice is still not, well, it actually feels a little bit better today. So I guess on day whatever it is of complaining about my voice being shot, we're finally starting to get a little bit better. Getting through the live stream was a bit of a challenge last night, but we did it. We muscled through, and, Jim, appreciate Jim doing the heavy lifting, bringing the hot takes as he always does. But we're here on the Morning Pitt. You know what we do here. It's Monday through Friday, a little bit of Pitt sports talk to get your day started. Look, on the radio airwaves, it's all Steelers all the time, and understandably so. So we give you a little bit of Pitt talk because, let's be honest, the Pitt talk that you get on the radio airwaves, not exactly a deep dive into what they can accomplish over the final 3 games. And that's okay. I understand. We've got a bit of a niche audience here. The diehards of the diehards tune into the Morning Pitt. And so we're going to serve it up good for you with some Pitt sports talk this morning. You know what we always ask you to do, though? Like this video and subscribe. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. Either these Morning Pitt videos or the weekly live stream every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. The post-game show like we'll have tomorrow after the Syracuse game. Or not tomorrow, Saturday. Because tomorrow's Friday, not Saturday. I get my days mixed up sometimes for a lot of reasons. But we'll be live after that game. Probably, shortly after the game ends, we'll go live for at least an hour, if not more, if we need to talk about what happens. And we'll do it right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And trust me, you don't want to miss those post-game shows. They're fun. We have whiskey and beer and hot takes and ranting and venting. It's a good time, and I'd love it if you join us here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So do that. And check out the website as well, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. So 3 games left in the regular season. Syracuse this week, Boston College next Thursday, at Duke in the final week of the season. And really, this is the final regular week of the season. I mean, we are flying through the month of November, flying through the regular season. And when it's loss after loss after loss, it feels like it almost goes faster because you keep waiting for that next win to come, that next opportunity to come, and keep blowing it. And so you're always sort of looking ahead. And I think when you're always looking ahead, the present flies past a little bit quicker. So here we are, the final quarter of the season, just 3 games left to play. And look, you can't play the card anymore of, well, our goals are still on the table. I mean, the goals haven't been on the table. The table has been chopped up and used for firewood to save the remaining survivors. I mean, there's nothing left on the table. There's no goals that are still out here. So what do you have to play for in these final 3 games? There's some outside chance that if you get to 5-7, you could potentially sneak into a bowl game because there aren't enough bowl eligible 6-6 teams, whatever. It seems highly unlikely that even if Pitt gets to 5-7, that opportunity would be presented to them. Whether it is or isn't kind of doesn't matter because you know where you're going as a 5-7 at-large last addition to a bowl. I mean, who knows? Maybe you end up in San Diego or someplace. Actually, it might not be the worst thing, but nobody's flying to San Diego to watch a 5-7 team. I digress. There's just not a lot out there left to play for. So what do they have to play for? What do they have to work on? What can they accomplish in these final 3 games? Because even if you win out, you're not going to salvage anything from the season. You're not going to salvage any good vibes. You're not going to convince anyone that it's a good season. I mean, the die has been cast, so to speak. The tombstone has been chiseled. It's a bad season. Even in 2007 and 2017, when they won the finale, the West Virginia game, the Miami game, that didn't salvage the season. It created some good vibes heading into the offseason, but it didn't in any way make those years good years. Those were bad years, and the story of those years being bad years was written long before those final games ever kicked off. And Pitt doesn't have, they don't even have a chance for those kinds of good vibes with Syracuse, Boston College, and probably an undermanned Duke team left on the schedule. None of those teams is going to be ranked number 2. So you're not going to have that huge upset win. And even if you win out, all you did was win 3 games in a row to finish 5-7. Nobody's going to get excited about that. So what can they do in these final 3 games? What meaningful work can be accomplished? And the first thing, and I'm going to write about this in the 3-2-1 column tomorrow. I apologize if it seems repetitive when you listen to this today and read this in the column tomorrow, because it's a lot of the same thoughts, but I'm just one man. There's only so many thoughts I can have. The number one thing is find out about your quarterback. And I've touched on this at various points. I've alluded to it or spoken on it. But more and more I'm convinced you need to find out what you have at quarterback over the next 3 games. You need to find out if Christian Veilleux really is your guy. And you're not going to make a final judgment necessarily, but you need to know, because you have to know whether or not you need to go to the transfer portal for a quarterback. You need to find out. You need to know. You need to see what he can do, because let's be honest. What he's done thus far, he's had flashes. I think he's been an upgrade over Phil Dracovic, even if, statistically at times he hasn't been. He's put up some, single game and half game stat lines that were very Dracovic-esque. The kind of stat lines that Phil Dracovic was putting up when, we were all clamoring for them to bench him and put in Christian Veilleux. And Veilleux has matched some of those stat lines, but he's had enough sort of flashy plays, enough big plays, enough great passes, enough beautiful touchdown throws that I'm willing to say that, okay, I think there might be something there, but you need to find out over the next 3 games whether he can do that consistently. And you're playing 3 teams that you should be able to have some success against. But you should have been able to have some success against Wake Forest. You should have been able to do better than touchdown, 10 drives with a field goal, touchdown against Wake Forest. You weren't able to do it. And if you match that kind of performance, if you have Wake Forest-esque games against Syracuse and against Boston College and against Duke, then I'm not so sure you have your answer at quarterback. And I'm not so sure you can spend all of next season continuing to try to answer that question. If these next 3 games look like the Wake Forest game, or look like largely what we've seen of a couple big splash plays and then a whole bunch of ineffectiveness and wasted possessions, then yeah, back to the portal we go. And I'll tell you what else. You probably should find out what you really believe about Nate Yarnell. I don't know why this guy can't buy snaps. I don't know why he just cannot get on the field. Other than in, the most extreme of situations. But it's pretty remarkable. Nate Yarnell has played a grand total of 74 snaps. He's dropped back 18 times. So obviously a majority of the time he's handing off. But when he has thrown the ball, in his career, he is 12 of 17 for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now imagine if you had that in a game. You know what I mean? Imagine if you just could rely on your running game and your quarterback went out and completed 71% of his passes for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. And yeah, bulk of that came against Western Michigan, excuse me, and Notre Dame's backups. But it's extremely limited playing time, but extremely efficient performance and extremely efficient production. I'd like to see what he can do with more consistent snaps. Almost to the point, and I don't think that they would actually do this, but I think they should consider it, almost to the point where I would like to see Christian Veilleux play the first quarter, Nate Yarnell play the second quarter, Veilleux in the third quarter, Yarnell in the fourth quarter. Unless one of them comes out and is just like 10 of 10 for $180 and 2 touchdowns during their quarter, and the offense just looks incredible, and then you stick with the hot hand. But I would alternate. And shoot, I might do it for all 3 games. 3 games, that's 12 quarters. I give them 6 quarters each. Because you've got to find out. And if you've already closed the book on Nate Yarnell, if you've already decided that, if you've already decided that Christian Veilleux is the guy, I think you're rushing to judgment. And, how many times did we talk earlier this season about personnel things and how, I have a hard time questioning coaches on personnel because they see so much more and they have so much information and, practice and all of these things. And I still largely stand by it. But that decision making led Phil Dracovic to start 5 games for this team. I'm sorry, but you're going to need to try these guys out in games because whatever you were seeing in practice and whatever you were seeing on film and in the team meetings and the position meetings and the film sessions and all those things, it led to you going 5-0 or 1-4 in 5 games with some of the worst quarterback play that we've seen from this program in a long, long time. And so maybe what you were seeing in practice looked good. Maybe what you were seeing in practice looked better than how Christian Veer was playing. But when you got into the games, you saw something different. So maybe, even if you're just really not swayed by Nate Yarnell's play in practice, maybe you should still get him into some games and see what can happen. I'm not saying you waste these games. I'm not saying you throw these games away or take a less than serious approach. But I do think you should take these games for what they are. 3 games to close the season, 3 games of little big picture consequence, and an opportunity to get on the field, live action, bullets are flying, pick your cliche, playing against another team who's going to go out of their way to try to, make you play poorly. It's not like scrimmaging. It's not the blue gold game. It's not any of that. It's playing another real team who wants to hit you and will get after you. Go out and play against them and find out what you've got. Because if you got it, great. And if you don't, then you need to go find somebody who does. And to some extent, I mean, if you want to find a silver lining to the dark cloud of this season or the way this whole thing has gone and where they're at right now, to some extent, making the best of a bad situation here. Excuse me. I was going to say blessing in disguise. It's not a blessing in disguise. There's no blessing about this season. This season is a waste and a disaster. But I think probably making the best of a bad decision or bad situation is using these final 3 games as a real live fire testing ground for these 2 quarterbacks. And not just approaching it like, okay, what do we need to do to win? I mean, that's important, but use it as an opportunity to gain some useful information and really find out what you have. And actually, it applies to a lot of positions, not just quarterback. Quarterback is the most important one, and quarterback is the one that you really need to focus on over these 3 games. But you can apply this logic and this way of thinking, this approach to running back, cornerback. Those are probably the main ones. Defensive line to some extent, but I don't think there are too many younger guys who aren't playing. I mean, I think, Nakai Johnson has gotten opportunities. Elliot Donald has gotten opportunities, not a ton. So maybe that's what you can focus on is try to get those guys some more snaps out there. But, you're getting Sam Okunlola. You're getting Jimmy Scott. I guess Sean Fitzsimmons, a defensive tackle. You'd like to see more of him and find out what he can do. You're getting a lot of youth on the field at offensive line. You're playing whoever you have at wide receiver. And obviously safety, you've already turned over that position. Linebacker too, to some extent. You've already burned 3 red shirts. So you're using those guys. But I think, running back, if you're not just going to commit to Rodney Hammond, then, brother, you might as well try Derek Davis. You might as well try Montravius Lloyd. You might as well try TJ Harvison and give these guys an opportunity to make some plays and get out and go. And see if they can make something happen. You don't have anything to lose in this situation. You don't want to play like you have nothing to lose. You don't want to convey to your players that you have nothing to lose. But you might as well give these guys an opportunity to see what they can do and see if they can make plays. And I think at cornerback too. I mean, you love Marquez Williams and AJ Woods and MJ Devonshire for sure. Those guys have given a lot to this program. They mean a lot. And I'm not suggesting you bench them, but like Rylan Gandy's got to keep playing. He's played some snaps over the last 2 weeks, particularly late in games. He needs to be in a rotation. He needs to be a 4-man rotation. And you probably should try and work Noah Bigelow and Tamarian Crumpley in there too. And hell, you might as well even put a freshman in there. Let's see Shadarian Harrison get some snaps. You've got a unique opportunity here to You're not playing with house money. What's the opposite of playing with house money? But you've got a unique opportunity here to use real live game action situations to put these guys through the paces. And it'll help you find out what you've got now. And for the guys who can really play for you next year, it's going to help them be more prepared going into next season. So they're going to be ready when it is their turn. You know, Williams and Woods can't come back. Devonshire could come back. We'll see if he decides to do that. I'm not sure which way. I would have thought before the season he was definitely going to go. I'm guessing he still will go, but we'll see. Either way, you're going to need 2, 3, 4 corners to step up. Probably go to the transfer portal to get at least one, but you're still going to need to count on and be able to count on Rylan Gandy, Noah Bigelow, Tamarian Crumpley, Rashad Battle, still never really was ruled out for the season, so maybe he gets some playing time. Shadarian Harrison, Jesse, you could go down the list, and I just did, of getting these guys on the field. Finding out what they've got and also giving them valuable game reps. But to me, it really comes back to quarterback. I don't see a reason to go Christian Bayer for the entirety of all 4 of these games, to have him play 12 quarters or all of these 3 games, to have him play 12 quarters over these 3 games. You want him to get as many game reps as possible, for sure. You want to get him working out there. But I think you need to find out what he can do, but I think you also need to find out what Nate Yarnell can do and make a decision on that guy, because he hasn't gotten a fair shake. But, you talk about Nick Patty never getting a fair chance. I mean, Nate Yarnell in his limited playing time has a better, stat line than Nick Patty ever did. And I like Nick Patty, and I think Nick Patty could have gotten a shot. I mean, probably could have won more than 2 games this season if Nick Patty was here, but he's not. And Nate Yarnell, I guess I would just ask, would Nate Yarnell have done any worse than what we've seen from the 2 starting quarterbacks through 9 games? Would Nate Yarnell have won fewer than 2 games this season? Or do you think there's a chance he might have won more? Now, you could make the case that Christian Bayer starting for 9 games probably would have won more than 2 games. You might even make the case that Ty Diefenbach starting more than 2 games would have won, or starting 9 games would have won more than 2 games. But I just think you got to see. I think you got to find out. You have to gather as much useful, actionable information as you can from these final 3 games so you are better prepared for 2024. So you know what you have going into 2024 and you know what you need going into 2024. That portal is going to open real soon. You need to know what your plan of attack is. These 3 games will help you form it. All right, don't forget, we got the mailbag tomorrow. If you're on Panther-Lair.com, you can go on the Between Fifth and Forbes message board and post your question in the mailbag thread. We'd love to get as many questions as we can, so hopefully you participate in that. And then, what else do we have? That's the last Morning Pitt of the week. And then we have the live show on Saturday. After the Syracuse game, we'll be live right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video and subscribe. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. You turn on your notifications. You'll get an alert sent to your phone so you always know what's going on. Oh, I didn't know they were having a live show. I didn't know they were doing a post game or anything like that. No, you get a notification. You will know, and then you'll never miss any of it. So thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Oh, don't forget, also there's a Pitt basketball game tomorrow night. We're not going to do any live videos after that, but certainly it'll be something to keep an eye on with the Binghamton game. Something to look forward to. And then that Florida Gulf Coast game next Monday is going to be a big one. So we'll get some basketball post-game shows in, probably on the weekend games, I'm guessing. Maybe afternoon games, maybe the game in Brooklyn. We might talk about that a little bit. But we'll plan those out and make sure we give you advance notice so you can be a part of it. But thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. As always, stay tuned to Panther-Lair.com for all the Pitt coverage, and we will talk to you tomorrow for the Morning Pitt right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.